Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Music of the Week. As always, only 6 albums to go through, so I'm gonna go through them as quick as I can do. We begin with Chastity and their fourth album, Chastity. So this is a band I heard about a couple of years ago with their album Suffer Summer, and I did like that one. I like this one as well, probably a little bit more. I'm giving this one a B+. I thought it had some really solid, emo-leaning riffs. I will say, of the only 2 albums I've heard by them, it is probably a bit darker than the last one, but it's still got some really good stuff. And it's not to say that the dark stuff is bad. I actually think it works well and sort of helps mature things, because their last 3 albums were sort of wrapping up a trilogy. So this is probably the first in terms of a new story, and one of the main themes of it is just trying to tackle youthful ignorance and sort of yearning for those days, but also trying to move on from them in a way. Sort of trying not to really forget where you came from, you know. Again, riffs are really good. I really like some good guitar-y melodies. The band are also really good as well. Brandon Williams, really good vocalist, pours in quite a lot of emotion. I also quite like the production, which was handled by probably Brandon. Yeah, it was produced by him. Thank God for the fact that these are serving as unofficial scripts now. The actual reviews on Discord, but yeah, produced by him. It's quite well put together. I like a lot of the pacing too. I will admit there are parts of the production I feel like are slightly overdone, and sometimes the pacing doesn't really mix things up too much. But it does have a really good core sound, and I really like how it tackles its main theme. So yeah, really good pop punky stuff from Canada. Next we go to England for the Meths with their first full-length album titled What a Life. This is a punk duo from Essex, and I covered one punk duo from southern part of England earlier this year, and liked their album. It was the new, well, I say the new Soft Play album. It was the first album under that name. I might like this one a little bit more than that one, and giving this one an A+. I really can't think of many areas it suffers. The one sort of the note I have is maybe sometimes the production could have been boosted up a little bit. I feel like it's a little bit too raw and too rough in some places. But I don't really fucking care. Holy shit, this is a great bit of punk. Members, which are vocalist slash guitarist Lily Hopkins and drummer Lewis Copley, put in some really good stuff together. Lewis is backing vocalist as well, but it is Lily that very much leads the charge. With her delivery, it's fucking good. Snarling, no nonsense, straight to the fucking point. The band's chemistry is great, and I really think it helps that there's only 2 of them. It was produced by Frank Turner as well, you know, and he does still do a really good job, even if I do think it could have been cleaned up a little bit in some areas, but again, that's just me. Really enjoyed the lyrical themes. Tackling, you know, online transphobes and keyboard warriors and shit, but blending in really good political stuff as well. And it comes across as very acidic and very, again, straight to the point, and I fucking love it for that. The pacing is also great too. Not only is it bolstered by some really good and punchy punk riffs, just the guitar and bass, well, I don't know if there is bass, but the guitar and drums are both amazing, but the pacing just has a really, really good sense of flow. It's got a very distinct sort of vibe for each song, but it still sticks to its very aggressive side, and I love how it actually mixes up mostly on each song without varying too much from the formula, just really creating that balance that I love, you know. And the closing song being actually quite fucking good, probably my favourite song of the past weekend, but we'll talk more about that as we close out the video. Yeah, really good shit, and just a great album. I can recommend giving this one a spin. Next we go from Essex to Manchester in England for a sort of alternative rocky emo post-hardcore group named My Only Solution with their second album, The Saints That Haunt Us. I thought this was a really solidly put together bit of post-hardcore stuff. I wish I could fully describe the sound. It does have vibes of earlier AFI for me. I'm giving this one a B. I really liked most of what I heard. I do I feel like I should like the lyrics, but I really couldn't find anything on themes, and what I could find, well, I really couldn't find anything, but from what I was able to glean just with my ear holes, it sounded kind of sad, to be honest. It sounded a bit dour. But I liked the riffs, you know. I thought they were probably one of the stronger parts of the album. I feel like the production, it varies the sound under effects at points. You know, the pacing is also pretty good. It doesn't really push its boundaries a whole lot. but it does stick to a really good solid formula. Maybe a couple of songs can drag it a little bit, but I don't really mind that much, you know. And it does let the band experiment a little bit with the sound because it's a very unique sound. I think the riffs, again, I didn't really talk about them much earlier, but I will now, really do speak volumes of how much the band wanted to do with them. And I like the strong guitar work. Drums are really good too. The band are just really really dedicated to what they do as well. I was going to say they're really well put together, but you know, that also kind of works, I guess. Yeah, solid chemistry, mostly good writing, bit of a depressing time, and very hard to pin exactly what's going on at some points, but in a good way. So, yeah, I say hard to pin what's going on. It keeps it simple, but it does try and push itself just enough. So, yeah, still a solid recommend, socket recommend. And finally, we finish our round of stuff in England with a Bristol-based band named Sans Freud with their full-length debut album, Hello Boil Brain. So it's very difficult to describe what this one is. It is art rock, right? And it's got a lot of really interesting stuff going for it. Like the instrumentation dynamics themselves are, you know, very unique. It's actually got quite a lot going for it. There's a lot of really good fuzz on the guitars, and I like the drumming, and the vocals are pretty solid as well. I wish we could have heard them a little bit better in the production, but that's fine, you know. I do think that the band has is probably the thing that ties it together the most, but the instrumentation is probably my favourite part. But the band do a really good job too. I do feel like, though, sometimes the production can make things a little bit more clear, and I wish I could have found more in terms of the writing, because maybe there's some stuff about societal issues. I couldn't really find a lot with that. But also, the pacing is a little bit hurt because the album is it's the shortest album in this video. It's only like 29.5 minutes with 8 songs on it. But it feels like the band wanted to do a lot more. And I was surprised that they really weren't given that time. I wanted them to have a couple more songs and just stretch out their weirdness muscles, because it feels like they're trying to tell a compelling narrative here. I just feel like they were cut for time by the label. Well, okay, there isn't a label. It was released by the band, so... Well, I don't know. Was it their producer? Because the producer, I don't think, is a member of the band. So, was that it? I don't know. I wanted there to be more weird shit on this album, but there's more than enough weird shit to keep me locked in. Next, we have Snow Patrol with their new album, The Forest is the Path. Probably the band people are maybe the most familiar with in this video. This is I didn't know that they were Northern Irish / Scottish. I thought they were just Scottish, but they do have a Northern Irish member, I think, which I think is just the lead singer. Give this one a C+. This is solid enough indie rocky Britpoppy stuff, you know, and mostly lead singer Gary Lightbody is the one that really carries things. Production's quite good as well. I think it's a very organic feeling mix. I do wish I could have more on lyrics, because apparently the main thing I've got written here is the idea of love from the distance of time. Whatever the fuck that's supposed to mean. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a plebe and didn't get it. I felt like the instrumentation was a bit lacking as well in terms of urgency, and the pacing is a bloody slog. It is an album that's 50 minutes and 44 seconds in length, and there's not enough interesting stuff happening. There's not really an attempt to experiment with the sound, and the mood is a bit repetitive and the tone's a bit repetitive, but it's inoffensive dad rock, you know. I didn't really hate it too much. I feel like the lyrical theme is at least interesting, and the band work and the production are more than enough in terms of just good elements for the album. I just wish that it didn't take so long as an album. It's just... there's a lot of it, and at the same time not enough of it. So, yeah, probably my least recommended of the video, but again, as always with these, I still think you should give it a spin. And finally, we have Zeal and Ardor with their 4th album, Grief? I think it's supposed to be pronounced Griff, because if it were Grief, then the I and the E would be switched the other way around. But Zeal and Ardor are the band I'm probably the most familiar with in this video, because they're the only band in this video that I've listened to all of their previous albums. As long as you don't count the Meths with their debut, but that doesn't really count. Yeah, I'll give this one an A. I mean, Zeal and Ardor are a pretty fucking great project by Emmanuel Gagnon, who puts in a tour de force performance on his vocals, and the production's really good as well. Those are probably my favourite parts, just the performances of the band, mostly Manuel, and the overall mixing of sounds is really, really good. I like the ideas that they're able to work into the production as well. Really good direction on that front. Solid instrumentation as well, really good riffs. I like that it turns on the avant-garde black metal stuff, but also mixes in so many interesting elements as well, and some new tricks that the band really haven't tried before. And there's good lyricism about political stuff like revolution, rebelling for yourself, racism and stuff, you know. Really good topics that the band have touched on before, but they're topics that the band know how to work on and know how to write about, so glad that they're sticking to the strengths and making their strength stronger. My main issue is probably the pacing. That's an issue I've had with so many albums in these videos, isn't it? But it's probably my main issue because, while it does experiments, and it mostly makes the risks it takes pay off, when I get to the second half of the album, it kind of starts to peter out of well, it doesn't really peter out of ideas. It actually tries too much to experiment, and it doesn't really rein it in as well on the second half of the album as well as it does on the first half of the album to me. I mean, for lack of a better term, it kind of crawls up its own arse in some points. You know, I'm just like, yeah, that was a good idea. You could have just made that better, you know, but as it is, it's still really good. And as this album is, it's still really fucking good. Zillow are a great band, and I think this is probably my second favourite album of theirs besides their debut, which I think was just Devil Is Fine, yeah. But yeah, really good shit from a band who are just really good at this particular style, you know, still one of the most unique bands in avant-garde metal, which for the genre is saying something, so yeah, I still say that it's a spin worth spinning. Next up is the official ranking system, so we'll start with the bottom, which is Snow Patrol with The Forest as the Path, then My Only Solution with The Saints That Haunt Us, then probably Sans Freud with Hello Ball Brain, then Chastity with Chastity, then Zeal and Order with Grief, and finally The Mess with What a Life. But as always, go and spin all of these yourself and find out what you like the most, because that's what makes the shit interesting. As for favourite album cover, that probably goes to My Only Solution's album, The Saints That Haunt Us. I really like the sort of simple but effective colour palette of it, just being black and white, but it's also just got a really pleasing placement of the album title, which I quite like. I don't know, it's brooding and dark, but I think it's good. And my favourite song goes to What from What a Life by the Meffs. Holy shit, what a great closer. Really good way to punctuate what's a really fucking great punk album. Love the performances, love the pacing of it. Really wasn't expecting them to pull out as many tricks as they did on it as well. Just really good shit. Just listen to the fucking album, obviously. But the closing track, well done. That'll about do it from me. Next thing you'll see me for will be tomorrow, which will be... I don't know if I'm going to be able to do a reaction, because I always say I will and then I don't. I'll try and remember, but I'll probably forget. But the next thing I can sort of maybe guarantee, I need to really start working on a code for it, is the return show after Reverence, because, yeah, more streaming. Also, if you heard that weird laser sound, there was the text message notification on my phone. But yeah, hopefully tomorrow, return show stream for PBW vs AVW. And then Saturday, hopefully, finishing Shantae, the Half Genie Hero. I need to get back to editing that Let's Play, Jesus Christ. But I'll see you all tomorrow, and over the weekend for those things. As always, thank you for watching, you're awesome. Bye-bye.